Welcome to the Breakthrough to Your Best Success online event. Join your host, Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino, and the contributors from the Success Guidebook and other special guests to visualize, actualize, and amplify you and your best success. This conference will help you redefine success, transform your goals, embrace change, design and realize your best life, and much more.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Breakthrough to Your Best Success conference here online. I have Helen and Juli Polise with me. They're contributors in the Success Guidebook. Thank you guys for being here.
We're so excited to be here. Thank you.
I'm shaking my head going, ooh, earrings. So listen, I got back from South Carolina and there's this package on my dining room table. And I'm like, those are the coolest earrings ever. And I've been wearing them. I've been asking who gave them to me. And before we went live on here, I had these earrings on, these other ones right here. And I just quick put these on and Helen showed up on the video. She goes, oh, you got the earrings I sent you. So mystery solved. And thank you. They're so cool. And I hear they glow in the dark.
Yes, they glow in the dark. Okay. It was just so cool because you commented on one of my videos saying, I love those earrings. I need them for the launch, kind of like, joking around. And I said, oh, I'm going to send them to her. Yeah. So I'm really happy that you got them.
It's perfect. And thank you very much for that.
I'm
so grateful. And yeah, no, it is. And together you guys are the founders of HelloSocialize.com. So everybody go check that out. That's very cool. And I love the mother-daughter, just so everybody makes that connection. Yes. And you guys are one of the most inspirational stories in the Success Guidebook. And I'm so grateful that you said yes to being in the book and the way you structured the story and things like that. So do you guys want to just start up by telling us about how you wrote that story in the book? What you did?
I would love to say that as you know, that you reached out to me to be a contributor, and I couldn't think of anybody I'd rather have write the story than Juli, because she, number one, is way more creative than me, a much better writer and storyteller. And I really just wanted her perspective, because writing it about myself was going to be a whole different vibe than her telling it from what she saw and where she sat. So I'm thanking you, Juli, officially for taking it and running with it. So I appreciate it so much.
And Juli, do you want to tell us about what the story's about?
Yeah, the story is about how Helen, I call my mom Helen, and people are very jarred that I call her by her first name. So the story is about how Helen got cancer essentially she was going blind, and that's how they found the cancer behind her eyes, and how basically she went for like 2 months being blind. Her whole family kind of stepped in with different roles and really helped her get through it. She had booming success, somehow still posting on social media throughout the entire journey, which just was incredible to see and witness. And in the end, ended up being this like really tough but beautiful 2 years for our family, and kind of made us all kind of reevaluate and look at our lives. And for me, it was realizing that I wanted to work with my mom and spend a lot of time with her because going through that process was extremely scary. So, and the thought of losing her. So the end of the story is kind of about that journey of realization of wanting to spend time with my mom.
Yeah, I was crying when I was reading this into audiobook.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm thinking I'm not going to cry today.
Okay. I know I did. I'm like, oh my gosh, this story. I love it. And it evokes so many different emotions. It's like happy and sad and scary. And when you got that news, Helen, what was that moment like? That had to be
so pretty strange for me that because it started with blindness, and I was so terrified for that solid 3-week period of going from perfectly healthy to legally blind, and that was more terrifying to me. So believe it or not, to get the diagnosis was almost a relief to know that there was a reason for it and a solvable thing. So we could now, so that I don't think a lot of other people would say, when you got a diagnosis with cancer, how did you feel? And I would say relieved, because I felt that at least we had a plan. And that was my first initial feeling. I was just happy that I was going to go through some treatments and hopefully regain my eyesight, which I have 100%. And so it's a really great story now. But then it was a terrifying thing to live through. And I took it one day at a time. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to get through this because someday I'm going to be looking back on it. And here we are. So
Yeah. It came
feel very
across my
blessed.
desk. I don't know how many years ago it was now, but it was to promote you for something. And it was like a media blast, and it was all about you and all these things to promote you for something. I don't know if it was a book or your TikTok or something like that. And I remember contacting the PR rep going, this is the coolest person in the world. I need to know her. Can she be in the book? Can she be, all these things? Can you just tell everybody like who you are?
Oh, yes.
It's too much. She's cool. Everybody listen up because, oh, wow.
Okay, so my whole career, I've been a TV commercial producer and then director. And I started in the toy industry, doing a lot of toy commercials, then more in the testimonial space. And when the pandemic hit, just like a lot of people, I found myself with a little bit of time on my hands and decided to, for the first time in my life, turn the camera on myself in my house. And I began making content. And I remember thinking, I want to be a content creator, kind of like it was this elusive term that people were throwing around and I didn't even know what it meant. But I just started making videos, doing things in my kitchen and baking my favorite recipes and sharing things on social media. And Juli convinced me to get on TikTok because we were doing a little dance-off competition every day about our work from home outfits. So we started taking those to TikTok. And literally, I will say the rest is history. I just started exploding on TikTok from my personal videos. And then one day someone asked me if I could show them how I did a certain thing because I was doing some outfit changes in some of those tricky little TikToks. And I said, I'll make you a tutorial. And the rest is literally history. I just exploded as a tutorial teacher.
Fearless too. I think a lot of us, especially, when I'm 55 and I go, I don't know if I want to be on that with somebody might go, oh, you're too old or too short or too heavy or too blonde or too dark or what, people pick on you. Yeah. Does that happen? Somebody go, get off here.
You have to let it all go and know that that is going to happen and how resilient are you going to be. And one of the things I learned from being on social media is how to have thicker skin, because I think I used to be more of a people pleaser than I am now. I used to be worried about what people thought or thinking I could win that person over. And I have gotten over that, which is really helpful, honestly, in life, because Julie's more like that naturally. And I was not like that as a person growing up. She kind of has it as her DNA.
Yeah, Juli, give us some tips on how to not have to win that person over. I think that's a whole thing we're going to have to post on besteveryou.com. That is a frustrating aspect. You're like, you always feel like, gosh, why don't they like me? What did I do? It's just like, hey, it might be just oil and water. But got any good tips for that?
I feel like it's something I've just developed over the years. And I will say, I feel like it kind of started with Mom, because I remember growing up, she always be like, you don't want to be like everybody else. You don't want to dress the same as everybody else. And that was kind of like ingrained from a very young age. And I was growing up very self-conscious of everybody around me and not wanting to ruffle any feathers. And I feel like starting my own TikTok journey, and now I do stand-up comedy, I've kind of had this like reinvention of the people pleasing, where it's like, especially with stand-up comedy, it teaches you a lot. Like, you can perform and no one can laugh, and you kind of have to be like, well, I believed in those jokes. I thought it was funny. And I think that has really helped me kind of get over that. Well, it's just not their cup of tea. Like, I'm not for them. I'm not their target audience, kind of putting everything in terms of like social media and comedy, and just realizing like, you know what, not for everybody, but the people who do like my stuff will be fans, and I don't know, that's my own. I don't know how I've gotten here, but I'm here.
No, I love it. That's good advice. I love it. And I think sometimes too that your age group has grown up with social media and phones and cell phones and all these things where I didn't. And so using them can be really scary. And that's why I love watching Helen's videos, because I'm like, okay, she knows how to do this.
You can do it. You can do it.
She does. She can do it. I can do this, kind of thing. And there's that kind of buddy kind of feeling to it too. So I
think that was a big draw on how my audience came to me in the first place, because they saw themselves in me, and they became confident in the same way that you just said. If she can do it, I can do it. And that just is that gives me the most joy when I have people who will say, I never thought I'd post on social media until I started watching your videos. And I'm like, well, that could make me cry. Yeah. So yeah, it's a really good thing.
I get that way with books. Like, if I can do this, you can do this. Let's go. Let's get that book out of you and
Oh,
get
that's
it
right.
written
Ooh,
and all
maybe you
that
could
stuff.
teach us something, because we
Yeah,
should.
and I love helping people write their books. So yeah, absolutely. We all have our little things. I think that's what's really important. That's what Best Ever You is. Celebrating our unique differences and just it takes a lot of different gifts and talents in the world to make up the world, and not everybody's alike and all that good stuff. So,
Yeah.
all right, we're gonna get into some questions about success.
Okay.
And about the book wants us to redefine success. I really want us to do that, to a new and redefined way. Get rid of the old definition that it's all about money and this and that and analytics and all that good stuff, and do something else. So, if you think about that, how has perspective in the pursuit of success evolved throughout your life, Helen?
I will start with that one. So I will agree with you that when I was in my 20s, and I think I even had written myself a letter at the time and sealed it in an envelope when I first graduated college, and saying, by the time I'm 25, I want to. And the first thing in it was a certain amount of money I wanted to be making.
Yeah.
So that is right. Can you relate to that?
I did the same thing.
It was so my definition of success. And it was partly, I'm sure, upbringing, because we didn't have a lot. And it was, everything was always, we can't have that because we don't have money. So then in my mind, being able to achieve those things was going to give me success. So I will say that that has evolved a lot for me, in that I've been through a lot of different phases of my career in production. And I even had a partnership for a little while, and the partnership was, quote, successful, and everything was great with it, except the personality struggle that started to develop in the second half of it became really debilitating to my happiness. And it was the first time in my life that I wasn't happy going to work. And I realized that no matter what, happiness was going to trump everything. So I needed to make myself happy and leave that partnership and take a risk, and maybe not be as, potentially, quote, successful, maybe even financially, but I knew that it was the right thing for my life. So I do think happiness and a deep core sense of joy became way more important in the definition of success for me.
Yeah. How about you, Juli?
I'm a little bit younger. So I haven't gone through the full metamorphosis of success.
Yeah.
How
about with your mom's experience? How has that changed your view of success?
Yes, through my mom, and also like my dad, they both run their own businesses growing up. So I think for me, I saw success in like the workplace and career really differently than a lot of people. So in terms of like career wise, just seeing that you can be successful starting your own company, not following the normal path that everybody else is taking, and kind of like you can, like you're saying, define your own success. And now I'm like entering my late 20s, and this is something like I've talked about in therapy a lot, especially like starting comedy, being like defining my own success as like, you know what, I showed up and I did it, and I'm proud of like what I've done, and that is success for me. It's not necessarily like a number or a salary range or a job title, but it's kind of like, am I proud of what I'm doing? Because then I'm successful if I'm proud of the work that I'm putting out as like a creative person.
Yeah, I really love that. And I love the open-mindedness too, to like what success is as you go through life. I bet if I interview you, if I'm still here when you're 40, let's knock on wood, everybody.
We better all be.
I better be. But if I had you on when you're 40, you'd have a different answer maybe, or the same answer with more to it and things like that. So I think that's really important for us all to remember. I don't think we hit 20 and go, okay, this is my definition of success forever and ever and ever. And I think I'm a mom of 4 boys, and 4 sons. I never know what to call them anymore because they're like adults. They're 22, 24, 26, and 28, but they're our 4 boys. And I would never say to them that this is the definition of success and you have to live by this your whole life. Go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Right.
I think it's totally going to change and go all
I think it's always evolving. Always evolving. I think that's a huge part of it. Even if I look at what I thought related to social media, I'm like, oh, if I get to 1 million followers, I just presumed, like, I don't want to say like money would be rolling in and brands would be knocking on my door. And my goodness, I've had to redefine that in my own head, because it's not reality. And it's, unfortunately, the people that are portraying that on the internet are also somewhat deceptive, and maybe some of them are having a lot of that success, but it's not across the board automatic. So that was an interesting little shift. And I thought when I reached that milestone, that's going to happen. So I think we all have to continue.
I did the same thing with unique followers on my website way back when, like in 2008, we hit a million people in it. And I'm like, oh, cool. Okay. I can just, be done now. I'm like, huh, no, no, doesn't have
Nope.
really anything to do with it. So yeah, it's interesting. It's all over the place with making money and social media. That's a whole
Yes, it
nother
sure
video.
is.
All right. So how has the notion of success guided you? Go with Helen first, in making like big business and life decisions.
I will say that I'm now core driven on if I'm going to be happy doing the thing, whatever that decision is. That's really driving me, and having this positive sense, which really got me through the cancer battle, is the same thing that's at the core of my being anyway. So I always used to say to friends of mine, if I was a toll collector, I'd be the happiest toll collector, because I'm just happy in whatever I'm doing. So it doesn't, not to put down toll collectors, because we still need those. But I think that the point is, whatever the task is, if I was working in a bank, I'd love working with my coworkers. I've always been the person that brings the happy, and and jokingly, I always say there's a party in my head, and I always bring it with me. So that's who I am, and I do think that having that at your core will help you have success no matter what it is that you're doing, because you're bringing that with you and you're bringing that energy. So to me, it's very big, largely energy based.
Okay, Julie, are you happy in your head all the time and bringing that everywhere? Or are you different from your mom?
I definitely have that like happiness
Yeah.
aspect, but it's definitely not like the driving force. I think a lot of times when I'm making like big decisions, it's kind of like, what is my gut feeling? Like, I don't know if this is like a good thing or a bad thing. Whenever I'm making like big life decisions, it's like, will I be really happy that I did this decision in 10, 20, 15 years, or will I regret not doing this? I've got a lot of anxiety, so I feel like it kind of stems from that. It's like, will I have anxiety about not doing this in like 10 years? Will I feel happy with what I've done? I think a lot of, in terms of like me making really big life decisions, a lot of my big life decisions have like moved away from home. And when I went to college, I decided, like, growing up in New Jersey, I was going to go to Michigan. And then after I did school in Michigan, it was like, do I want to move back home and live in New York where everyone else is, or do I want to do something different? So I moved to Chicago. And then after being in Chicago for a couple of years, I decided my boyfriend was going to move to LA. And I feel like a lot of the things driving that wasn't like, oh, am I going to be successful in this new city? It was more like, do I want to live the most life possible? Kind of drives a lot of my decisions, I guess.
I really wish I lived like that in a way. You know what I mean? I just sometimes I am a little, I don't know, envious of your way of thinking, because I didn't have that. It was a different time. So to leave my parents would have been like the end of the world to them. And so that was a big thing for me. That was a big factor. So I'm happy that you didn't have that factor, number one, just to have my perspective on that. But I love that she thinks that way, and she is more insightful and forward thinking. And I think I live for more the moment, and in the moment, and what do I want to do now? So that is, I think, where we differ. There's also the introvert versus extrovert that I think comes into play, because I'm a big extrovert and Juli is more of an introvert. I get my energy from people, and she gets drained from being with people.
I get very drained if I'm in a crowd. I have to be very, very, very careful if I'm in a crowd of people. Very, because I'm very empath like. Like I can know I can walk up to you and like know how you feeling, how you are you okay? It's weird. I'll worry about everybody in the room, and I'll know everybody's faces, and I'll know their names, and it goes on and on and on. It's funky. So I have to be really careful. Yeah, in a room. Do you, Julie?
Yeah, I feel that way too.
Yeah, I'm more intuitive, and I'll plan a little bit, but I have to be really careful of where my energy goes and things like that. There's a lot of it, but it gets wiped out pretty easily.
So what's interesting about that, Elizabeth, is when I go into a room, I will be in tune with the people, especially, for example, when I'm on a shoot, or if I go into a situation and I see someone who looks uncomfortable, I will immediately go, welcome, get that person to be comfortable. Like that, I almost feel like that's my role. I need to get this person in. Isn't that funny? Because I'll be in tune to it, but it's not down. It's almost going to make me feel like I got to just get them in and get them in, like make them feel good.
And that's who I probably seek. Like, just get me in the room, make me okay. And then I'm good. Kind of thing. It's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no. So I love your answers to all this. Let's talk about not hitting goals. And sometimes we don't achieve the level of success we hoped or dreamed of or whatever. Or like Julie, if you're in front of a crowd and nobody laughs or whatever you were saying, that's terrifying to me. I don't know if I could actually do that. I always think, oh yeah, I could give me a microphone. I could stand up there and crack jokes. I'm like, no one's going to laugh. And then, or no one's going to show up or buy tickets or whatever. I don't know. It freaks me out. But so talk to me about that. And can you remember a time where I want to go with this question about perseverance is, how you're on a track and then something derails you. And I want to talk about that because I don't think everybody's walking around as, well, my life's perfect. And I think people walk around and there's like 100 things playing in the background, from I don't feel good to I have a headache to my kids are sick to whatever it is. But and you're showing up in this way because we need to work or we need to do this or that. So that's a really long question, but I think you've got my ramble.
Okay.
Yeah, just take it and go wherever you want to go with that.
You want to go first, Jul?
No, you can go first.
Okay.
Okay. I always let you talk first. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So that's fine. So here's my thing. When my thing is definitely going to be that I was trucking along. Things were great. My career's going well. Because my success on social media, I have more production opportunities now, and everything was like trucking along in this really amazing way. And then I started to go blind. I thought I was going to lose everything in terms of work because you cannot have a blind director. At least in my mind, it was not a possibility. And a blind content creator was not something I was ready to embrace suddenly. So I felt like everything was kind of derailed. Talk about the word derailed, multiplied by 10. And Juli and I did make a rather dark TikTok shortly thereafter about this situation. And the trend was that everything's going along great. And then there was like a sound effect. And then it was like your life changed dramatically because of whatever. And we did the joke of like, everything's going along great. And then we cut to me laying on the floor, cancer, kind of thing, like as if my whole life became derailed. So we use dark humor to get through it. But when I think back on that, that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like, how could this happen? I was just on this amazing trajectory of my life, and all of this great stuff is happening. And now this, and it was devastating.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about how I did record every single day. I continued to pick up my phone when I was blind. I couldn't even figure out if I was half the time recording. That was what was making me cry the most, because I couldn't find the record button. And I was like giving the phone to my husband, record me because I need to just get this out, So I was doing it because it was in my soul to be a content creator at that point. And I felt like I was missing it. So I needed something to keep me on task. So I continued to record. And my thing was, I never knew if I was going to have that footage ever see the light of day, because I didn't know where the story was going at the time. And so I think my point, and what I want to make here, is that I kept going to do the thing that I loved, almost as a distraction, as crazy as that sounds. And when I got the diagnosis, and I said, I'm just going to keep going, because I needed something else to focus on. So I wasn't all consumed by this huge disappointment, derailment, whatever you want to call it. And that is how I power through my life. So take it and run with it, Juli. What do you have to say about that? You lived it.
I guess we're kind of similar. I feel like, I don't know if we handled the cancer journey a similar way, where it's like, we're going to get through it and get through the other side. And I feel like for me and you always said that, like, I brought the normal to the function when everything started happening, because I wasn't living in the same city. So when I came home, it was kind of like a breath of normalcy. I feel like that's kind of how we worked through, was trying to still feel normal, even if, we were going to have a new normal, but kind of working through it like that, I guess.
Yeah, it was she was basically she became my eyes and ears, well, sort of my eyes at that point, because then I had all this footage, and I didn't have anyone else in my family except for Juli, who's a fellow content creator. Like, she was my buddy in the content world. So she was able to put the footage together, and we sat together when I couldn't see, and I would be listening to the shots. And then we once we had the diagnosis, I wanted to let my audience know what was going on, because for 3 weeks I was off the grid, and I was getting people messaging me. So I had Juli reading my messages and trying to let people know we're going to be giving an update soon, and everything, everything's okay, blah, blah, blah. So Juli almost became, each person in my family had a different role in how they dealt with that situation. And so my husband was literally making the apartment accessible for me being blind and making sure of my appointments. My oldest son was there monitoring my chart, making sure my appointments, making sure I knew when test results came in. And my middle son, who's autistic, we could add this into the mix. He came over once and it was like, he didn't even process that I couldn't see because I looked normal. So he was just like, can you make me pancakes? Who's taking me to Six Flags? So he just was like brought normal in that way, because it was almost like I tried to tell him this is what's going on. And do you understand? And he said, yeah, but who's taking me to Six Flags? That was his biggest concern. And so when Juli came into the mix, she really brought almost like my partnership it was so obvious at that point that she should be my business partner, because she assumed the role for me so quickly, and it was so perfect. And Juli, thank you. If I haven't said thank you before 100 times, here's 101.
Here's 101. Yeah. What about all the inspiration you guys have given to those who have cancer?
Oh my
Have you
gosh.
thought about that yet? Because I just think we have to. I think one of the aspects of healing is we have to get it out and share our stories. Like my whole first book, Percolate, was about my dad and having strokes and all this stuff. It was a Hay House book, and just how, there's 11 of us, and my dad had a stroke on the living room floor, and I was like, what?
Oh my God.
And then a series of other things, and he survived from 2004 to 2018 as a stroke survivor, but he was blind. He had like field cuts, which if you're a stroke survivor, you know what that is. Sometimes people have that, but he was so positive and so inspirational to so many people for so long. Like people wrote in from all over the world on my dad's obituary page and things like that. But he even wrote books blind and things like that. I mean, amazing human being. And so he founded Best Ever You, like right about then when this happened and stuff. A few years later, I founded Best Ever You. I'm like, how do you get through this when something just completely derails you? How do you deal with change? Do you find people are coming at you in various ways like that for support and advice from everywhere?
It's still, it blows my mind and it amazes me. And I'm still brought to tears often from messages that I get, even this far after the fact, where people will come and say, oh, I haven't seen you on my feed in a while, and I'm so happy to see that you're well. Or I just shared your whole story with my mom because she's going through this now, and I think that you're so inspirational. I have situations where people want me to talk about it at events, and it has been the most unexpected part of this, because I just felt like it was helping me at the time to be posting about it. And it was helpful at the moment when I was sharing it, and maybe somebody was going to learn from this. But I didn't expect the lasting effects the way that they are coming at me now. And that is amazing, because I don't define myself as a cancer survivor. I don't even think about it a lot of times. I don't think of myself as an autism mom in that way either. I have an autistic son, but my life I'm defined by, I guess, I'm a TV director, I'm a content creator, and I don't consider myself the label of cancer survivor or autism. That's just never how I took on things that were challenging in my life. It was just part of it. It was that part of the story, but it wasn't the whole story. Right. So it still sometimes amazes me when I realize my life was going along. Then I had this crazy blindness and cancer, and now I'm back and my life is going along. And I have to remember, oh yeah, I had that. And that was a big piece of it. And there's people that really were impacted outside of me by what happened to me. So I think it's overwhelming to get the messages still to this day. And I'm always blindsided when sometimes I'll get an audio message from someone on my Instagram, and it's like this heartfelt message about, could you help me? I'm looking for wigs. It's just like, it's going to go on forever. I don't think it's going to go away for any time. No,
I still get messages about my dad all the time.
Right.
How do you do that or another thing, or how did we cope as a family or whatever, all the time. Juli, what was the moment like when you heard that your mom was sick? Because I imagine you must have been just absolutely devastated. And now you look at her today and gosh, you look absolutely beautiful and radiant and everything. And you were talking about like pictures from you a year ago and all this stuff. But tell me what that was like, Juli. And did you just go were you living near your mom at the time, or did you just get on a flight immediately, or what did you do?
Yeah. So it was really hard to do all of this from afar. It was definitely and just also almost like feeling jealous that like my brother was there and he was there every day and I was just, you know, not hearing all of it because I'm feeling like, oh, they're filtering what they're telling me. It's like I'm like conspiracy theories about my own family in my head, not giving me all the updates that I want. It was really tough. The day, like it was tough the whole 2 weeks. Like I think anyone in our family will say, like the 2-3 weeks that she was going blind and things weren't solid or there was no diagnosis was like the hardest 3 weeks out of the entire journey. Like we would like after, like she said, after the diagnosis, everything felt so much easier. I specifically like remember the day we found out. Like my dad called me on a walk. It was a very emotional walk home where I just like cried through the streets of Chicago. And then I remember we went to the lake and I think my autistic brother like tried calling us because he was like, I want my birthday cake to look like this. And I'm the one who makes the birthday cakes. And I remember just like talking to my boyfriend and I like made a joke like, oh, my mom has cancer, like peace sign. Like I had this random picture of me like crying while throwing up a peace sign. And it's really interesting to look back on that like my way to get through it was always humor. And that's how I always like coped with it. Even on day one, like 3 seconds after the phone call, like trying to make a joke about it, which I think most people would find like really insensitive. But to me, it was like, I need to laugh. Like that is how I'm going to get through it. And even after it, I have a lot of jokes about mom going through cancer. And even though I don't post about it as much on my social media, I do like talk about it on stage a lot. And I've had tons of people come up to me afterwards and be like, my mom or my dad also had cancer. And it was like really like that bit about your mom's cancer was touching, also like so funny. And it was fun to laugh about it. So I think there's always been that like undertone of humor for me that I always try and like bring to the table. Even before I was doing comedy, it was just kind of innate my way of processing.
Yeah, if you get my mom and I in the same room, we have laughs about just about everything, and we've had over really. I can't even. It's probably not even funny. I'm not even going to say some of the joke, but we had just really
no, it's okay.
Really super funny moments in this really dark, depressing, horrible situation. I mean, just some unbelievable things. So I totally get what you're saying, and
we did, and I appreciated that for her.
Yeah,
and I like remember we were like shaving, like the morning to like shave your head. It was like scream my name. I ran and you're like, it's happening, and it was like kind of not even like a sad thing. It was like let's do this, and then we were making TikToks about it, and we're like laughing and crying while it's happening. And then I shaved one part. And I'm like, you look like a Karen right now, and it was like just like a funny. Like we always tried to find the humor so that we were trying. Like, that's my way to be positive.
Yeah. No, I get. There's one point that was so just horrible with my dad. They were trying to get him off a ventilator one day, and they couldn't do it. And it was just miserable and everything. And I told my mom, like, we got to leave. We're going across the street. We're going over to Kohl's. We're going sweater shopping. We're doing anything but this right now. We're on our way out the door. We're going over there. And my mom was like, no, we're not. I'm like, yes, we are. We're leaving. So we went over to Kohl's. We bought sweaters. And before we went back into the hospital, we tied them around our necks like capes, like superhero capes, and went back in, just stuff. I mean, there's just certain, so I don't think people should be afraid of moments to get them stronger, to get through various moments that are tough.
No, it's helpful. And some of the TikToks we made, and we would laugh at look at each other and go, is it too soon? And we're like, we don't care. We'd post it anyway. Too soon? No. Doom post.
No, yeah, no,
I get funny because like my dad and my brother were like, why are you doing that? That's like awful. And me and mom were like, no, it's hilarious.
It's
funny. Yeah, gets through the moment. So let's talk about authenticity then. Authenticity, integrity, and things like that on factoring into achieving success. Do you want to take that, Helen? How important is it?
Yeah, I'll take that. That is huge for me because
go ahead.
I will say it's huge in social media, first of all, because people can see right through you. So that was a turning point in me realizing that my authenticity was a major asset to being a content creator. It wasn't something I had to make up, figure out, or find a persona. It was just like, I'm being me. This is me. I'm the goofball. You're going to see all of it. And so this is where I have to say, through cancer, I was making my own jokes. I was crying into the phone and then laughing and making jokes about things like while I was crying, because I would think of funny things. And I'm trying to think of the moment where I was recording something, and I remembered my son Jonathan always would watches one of my videos and says, "This ain't," and I used to say, "This ain't no cooking channel," when I would make my videos and they were like, I'd make mistakes in my baking. So he has this line, "This is real life," that from me, that is, "This is real life. It ain't no cooking channel." So when I was crying into the phone talking about my cancer, I just started thinking about Jonathan saying that. And I said, just like Jonathan would say, "This is real life. This ain't no cooking channel." And I was completely blind making this ridiculous joke about it. And so I, in the same way as Juli, even though I'm sometimes devastated, I'm joking in my tears. And so that's a thing. And I think what people liked about my content through that was that I was so honest, that I was willing to be authentic, funny, ridiculous, crying, pick up the phone, make sure I showed all of it. And when I was in the cancer part of it, and Juli would make fun of me and say, "Oh, well, if you're crying, good idea, pick up your phone and talk into it." But that's a ridiculous thing to do. But I wanted to make sure what I was showing people was not just the happy side of cancer, not just me getting dressed for chemo and having fun, but also, "This sucks. I'm getting a spinal injection and I'm terrified." I didn't want to portray it that it was a one-sided, happy, joyful experience. I wanted it to be real. And that, I think, is what has kept my followers with me as almost friends and supporters.
I think Taylor Swift just did that with the Tortured Poets Department.
Absolutely.
What
oh my gosh. You're speaking Juli's language right now.
Yeah, exactly.
She's a big Swiftie.
Yeah, exactly. Are you Gillette Night 1?
Huge.
Oh, I love her so much. But how many times have you listened to all 31 songs now, Juli?
Wait, sorry, you cut out for me for what you said.
Okay, I said, how many times have you listened to all 31 songs now?
Probably like 2 or 3 times. I felt really lucky to be on the West Coast on Thursday night because I could listen to it. And then when the second part of the album dropped, it wasn't 2 a.m. for me, it was 11. So I was able to also listen to it. Yeah, it's like it's like a testament. Like, I will say, ever since, like, she's one of the biggest reasons I've probably gotten into comedy and writing more, just like being able to appreciate the writing and storytelling she does through songs. I'm never going to sing. I don't have the voice, even though I would love to, but like a really huge inspiration for different facets of my life that don't even relate to like songwriting or anything, but just sheer impressed by everything.
You're going to love chapter 7 of the book. It's the Swiftie chapter.
Oh,
it's all
nice.
about Taylor Swift. So you'll love that.
Can't wait.
Just as a mom, my husband got tickets into the lottery to I know it's kind of controversial and things like that, but I had no idea he was doing that. He just surprised us, and he didn't say anything. But he got into the lottery and got to be able to buy tickets. So he got 6 tickets, so he took me and my friend, her daughter, and then our son's girlfriends and fiancés. So there were 6 of us that went, and I'll tell you, I don't know that I was the biggest Taylor Swift fan before. Like, I certainly knew who she was and knew her songs and things like that. But I left like a true, almost stalker fan. Now I'm like, oh, that's what the bracelets are. Okay. Because, the whole time we're on this group text with these, they're much younger than I am. They're 20-year-olds. And they're like, okay, I got the bracelets. Like, what's your outfit look like? And all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I just need comfortable shoes. I need, I'm sitting there, I don't care what I look like. I have no idea what you're talking about, bracelets. I'm like, oh, they're making, in fact, I told my husband, like, oh my God, they're making bracelets for this. Then you get there and you're like driving and people are rolling down the windows, exchanging bracelets and, so now I'm a massive Swiftie and I get it completely. So I love this album. But yeah, she's very vulnerable, isn't she, Juli?
Mm-hmm.
Like, really, extremely.
Yeah, really put it all out there.
Yeah. And if your mom, did you watch Fortnite on YouTube yet, Helen?
No.
If you do, you should watch that. Fortnite, it's Taylor Swift's Fortnite on YouTube.
No. Oh, wow.
It's the music cover. She put the guys from the Dead Poets Society in. I'm like, no way.
Oh, wow. No, I didn't. Juli and I saw the concert together. That was we did a mother-daughter concert thing in LA. So that was a lot of fun. But no, I'm going to go immediately to YouTube right after this interview.
Yeah. And then I love the way they did all the videos too. All the videos have the words like they're being typed in. All the official videos are super cool too. So, okay, we're off on the Swiftie thing and we got more people to interview for this online conference. Awesome. But it sure was a treasure having both of you here. And I'm so proud of you in the book and I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
It's been a joy to get to know you for, I don't know, a couple of years now, and see you and have you in the book and everything. And Juli, keep in touch. I follow you on Instagram. It's fun.
Thank you so much for having us
Yeah.
included. My gosh, we're really grateful for the opportunity. We're wishing you huge success with the book. I'm so excited about the launch, and it's actually nice for us because it's my son's getting married on the 4th, so that the moving of it was totally fine for us because then it's after the wedding. So.
It was kind of funny. I could tell kind of the whole time it was going to move. And I didn't say anything. I'm like, this is not launching on that date, and I don't know why, but I'm going to figure it out, I guess. And
Whatever.
there it was.
Oh.
So.
That's
Anyway, all right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us.
We'll see you again soon. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you.